So how does the SARS people recognizes all my earnings? Let's say, for example, maybe I do odd jobs, maybe somewhere below me, where I get the cash by hand. Do I still have to declare that money? And if I don't, how will they have proof that I've actually, obtained that money? Because the money doesn't go straight into my account; it goes straight to me. That is the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is now, which means that if I have to pay tax as a South African taxpayer, but let's say, for example, I'm in the UK, and I'm not using any of the services here in South Africa. Maybe once in a while, maybe once when I come and visit the family. So how does that work as well? So which means that a lot of people who are in South Africa and receiving your health care, everything, security, whatever that they're receiving, and they are not registered in South Africa. So those people actually getting free fees, that's what you say. And how do they get taxed? Because they wouldn't have to declare anything.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I understand your question, Bob, because I was the same question.
Too long.
I get it. All right, let's hear what Andre has to say. Andre?
Okay, thank you for the question. In terms of the first question, where you are receiving funds, whether cash or otherwise, this must be declared to SARS, and you must pay tax thereon. There are obviously exceptions if you don't meet the threshold for tax, and after rebates, and there's certain calculations, but you must declare everything to SARS, whether cash or otherwise. And there was actually recently an article I wrote on the Commissioner of SARS v. M. The reason why it's M is to protect the taxpayer's identity. This gentleman received funds in his bank account back in 2007, 2008. SARS went back to the assessments and said, 2007 you declared 5,000. Your bank account for that year has income of 50,000. Please can you kindly explain the 45,000 rand difference? The taxpayer in the instance could not explain the differences, and thus tax was raised on those amounts.
He had to pay?
Yes.
Yo.
High Court judgment. He had to pay. This is going into millions.
Yeah.
So again, how SARS gets the information, I think was the caller's question. SARS have access to third-party data. SARS can ask different jurisdictions. We have this person's passport number, ID number, address. What information do you have on Mr. X, Mr. Taxpayer? What information do you have on Mrs. Taxpayer? I'll then exchange the information because it's beneficial to both taxing systems. But in terms of the information, SARS has wide powers to obtain information. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that open their tax return with the intention to file, and they think, how does SARS know how much I contribute to my medical aid? But that's because there's a certificate, and the medical aid exchanges information with SARS. There's a certificate that has to be published as per the law. So SARS get this information from various third parties.
Even the cash stuff that happens between the hands?
Eventually, SARS will catch on. There are obviously a few that will slip through the cracks here and there, but myself, as a prudent taxpayer, I wouldn't want to be burdened with the information, putting my head down at night. Are SARS going to find out? Are SARS not going to find out? Every time there's a knock at the door, every time there's something that you're not used to, you may get away with it. Your brother, your cousin, your aunt may have gotten away with non-declaration, but will you? Can you guarantee that SARS won't catch on?
But I'm hoping that this highlights, particularly for SARS, the disconnect that there is between South Africans, taxpayers, and the issue of tax morality. So even if they give us these wonderful things like the voluntary disclosure program, it's wonderful, it's nice. But if it's being given to a disgruntled people that have no connection to why there needs to be a tax morality, that facility, as brilliant as it might be, might not work as effectively as it could if there was the kind of buy-in that I'm trying to sort of foster here. How do you respond to the two calls? And then let's just briefly, I mean, we've got 2 minutes, talk to me what VDP is. Okay. With the understanding you're coming back.
Yes,
okay.
100%. Happy to come back, and I'm glad that this has at least opened the conversation.
Sure.
And, you know, a lot of people seem to be phoning in and seem to be engaging on the topic, and that's important that we speak about compliance, tax morality, the VDP, avenues that are available. And before I answer the two gentlemen's questions, I just want to indicate that as much as the Tax Administration Act binds the taxpayer, SARS are equally bound to the TAA. Taxpayers have rights. Again, the enforcement of those rights, and unfortunately, not everyone perhaps has the resources to pay a professional, as we spoke about earlier, to enforce those rights against a body like SARS. And I totally understand the fear element that the last gentleman spoke about, that often there's often a fear element in dealing with SARS due to the
feeling like it's a big bully.
Yes, but again, through engaging and perhaps using the tools at your disposal, becoming educated as a taxpayer, being prudent enough to understand the fact that, listen, this is not my area of expertise. I need to get someone to assist me to ensure tax compliance moving forward. If anything happens, then a tax practitioner or the person assisting me with my taxes is suitably qualified to step in and assist if need be. In terms of the first gentleman's question, if he drives the Uber as a side hustle, there is in all probability a statement that Uber will publish in terms of the income. I'm not too familiar with the driver side of the app, but I'm sure there's a statement that one can download, a monthly statement similar to the user version, and you can then claim your expenses and declare that on your tax return, and again, only pay tax on your profit.